Welcome to Milesh and Sadie Property Talks, the podcast where property investors and developers get practical insight, real deal analysis, and honest conversations about what actually works in today's market. And we'll analyse a real deal in our new feature, The Hot Seat.
In this episode of Series 3, the Investor and Developer Playbook, we're discussing when a development becomes too complex. We talk about planning optimism, structural risk, and why some projects are more difficult than they appear at first. We're also going to explore open plan versus zone living and what buyers are actually looking for today.
So, let's get started.
So, hot topic, when is a development too complex? I think there's loads here.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's try and put a bit of structure into it, right?
Good, rather than just rambling on.
Yeah, so there's a few things. I think planning risk, planning optimism, risk is one.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you're getting good value out of a building, but you're not being overly ambitious to the point where it could cost you.
Yeah.
So for example, 5,000 square foot building, typically you can probably get 10 one-bed units in there or a combination of ones and twos, but don't go for 12. Don't put planning in for 12.
Yeah.
If your professionals around you and your team around you are saying it's going to be unlikely, but we can give it a go. Mm-hmm. You could do that, but that's going to mean that it's going to cost you in time and money. So,
and also, I imagine, if you go for sort of 12 units versus 10, there's a lot more costs involved as well.
Yeah, there's a lot more cost. Yes, your GDVs will be higher, but actually, is there a demand for it? Selling 10 units in one hit is a challenge in itself, I'd say, unless you've got demand flying off the shelves and you know that it's a hot area. But saturation is a thing that's becoming more and more of a thing in apartments at the moment.
And I would argue as well that people are a lot more savvy about circulation space in their homes now as well.
Yeah.
So trying to be greedy and think, well, I'll just squeeze down and fit more into this building. If you're coming along and you're buying or you're renting, you don't want to feel like you're living in a tiny box. You want to make sure that your rooms have got enough space. It's really important that you get your furniture plans down early on to make sure that even things like your bedrooms can fit in decent sized beds. In today's world, most people look at king size beds. So don't get to 12 units and then realize, oh gosh, actually we can only fit in a double and it has to be up against a wall. Nobody wants that.
I think the other factor is saleability.
Yeah.
So, we know that we can build apartments to minimum space standards, but actually, is it going to be better for you to have one or two less apartments, but have the ones that you are doing bigger?
Yeah.
Talking to your point there.
I guess that comes down a lot to postcode and demographic.
Correct.
Because if you, let's just say you're in a swanky part of a busy city, then your end user is expecting more. So they're expecting more space, they're expecting a higher spec. Whereas if you're, up north somewhere and it's out a suburb area, then potentially you can get away with sort of having smaller units. But then like you say, maybe the demand isn't there.
Exactly. See, I would flip that on its head and say, actually, if you're in a city location, then you're paying more for the location and you may be willing to compromise on the space because you've got that location.
But then I think that's when the demographic comes in with it, because you're right. Maybe if you are, a young working professional, it's a first time buy, something like that, you're right. But if you're in a part of London and the demographic is very much like, your sort of early 30s or something like that, they expect a bit more. They expect, a kind of step up in their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And therefore at that point, they're looking at maybe 2-bed flats. So you therefore want to get maybe, like you say, 1 and 2-bed flats out of that unit.
Yeah. Life stage is really important, actually, because if you're in your 20s, you
Shoebox.
kind of want something functional.
Yeah.
Right?
You're not cooking at home. Who needs a kitchen?
Yeah, when you're in your 30s, people might want to come round.
Yeah.
And so you've got to, adapt it to that and have something that looks a bit more respectable than perhaps would have done 10 years ago.
And then I think space comes into it, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. So it's a really important consideration. if you've got a building, don't just go with minimum space standards and the same units, like one beds all the way through. Look at twos and ones combined. Look at, yes, you've got to hit minimum space standards and everything else, but look at the cost of having them that small versus the cost of having them a little bit bigger. And actually, what's going to be more saleable.
That goes to a house as well, to be honest.
Completely, yeah.
Because you see time and time again, developers trying to squeeze an extra bedroom out of a home when it isn't there. And it goes back down to that box room. Nobody wants a box room.
You love talking about box rooms at the moment.
Do you know what? I didn't even live in a box room, but whenever I see one, I'm just so sad for the person who's in that box room. So I just think, don't be greedy and think, well, we've got a 4-bed, but actually if we divided that bedroom into 2, we could get 5 box rooms, which nobody wants to live in. Let's be realistic here. Again, it goes back to postcode. It goes back to who's going to live in it. You know, what do they want? But try not to. And the more that you're putting into a property, the more it costs. So as soon as you're dividing up, adding more bathrooms, doing all of that, it's a greater spend. So you have to know that your ROI is there at the end. Okay.
So ignore the fact that we call it box rooms. If you were in that scenario where you had a 4-bedroom, nice 4-bed house, but you've got some additional space that could create another room.
Yes.
I'm not calling it
box room.
Office.
Yeah, it depends where it is, doesn't it? Because as soon as you hit a 4-bed house, you are looking at definitely getting an ensuite in, really. That gets you an ensuite.
Okay, assume that's done.
Oh, you want me to assume that's done?
You've still got space.
Oh God, I'm so lucky. Could I have a dress? I mean, maybe a 4-bed doesn't warrant a dressing room, but when you're up to 5, 6 beds, you definitely want to be getting a dressing room. It depends on the level of the house, though, because dressing rooms actually are a real selling point in the luxury market. If not, yes, you're right. An office is a big one. You know, you would want to stage it out, which is really important. Even I think for the renters, if you're renting out to a family home, just make sure it's staged so it looks like that's what it's for. Because the home office, like you say, is massive in today's world. So many people work from home.
But yeah, do you know what? I just thought, give it a purpose.
Yes.
So I know I've suggested office. So yes, kit it out as an office. But what if it's a chill out space for your kids to stay upstairs and out your way?
Yeah.
Stick a TV, like
actually stage it.
Stage it in a way that gives it the purpose that you're looking for.
Yeah.
I suppose with an element of flexibility so that if viewers are looking at it and thinking, okay, do you know what? It's an office, but actually I need somewhere for my kids. Could I easily flick it over to that? Yeah. And vice versa. So it's a room of purpose rather than just a dead room with a door on it.
With nothing. And actually, now that we've just touched on staging, which we haven't talked a lot about, it is really, really important as a developer. And some rooms cry out for it more than others. There are some rooms that you kind of really need minimal staging going in. It's already, just through the development itself, it looks pretty impressive. But actually, if you have got a room like a box room,
cushions are important, right?
No, we're not going to talk about cushions. Please watch earlier episodes. But what I would say is those rooms are really hard to visualize, like just this blank room. In fact, bedrooms themselves can be. So you really need to work hard to stage those so that someone can come in and imagine their lifestyle.
And give it a purpose.
And when you said, oh, maybe you might stage it as an office or a kid's room, I would go back to looking at who's going to buy it. Like, do you think it is going to be a family house? Is it actually going to be maybe sort of your retiree, in which case you might stage it for a different purpose?
Multi-generational families is another one.
Yeah. That's right. Very true. That's very true.
That could be one. But yeah, purpose.
Yeah.
That's the learning from today.
Yeah, purpose, 100%.
So optimizing your development, over-optimizing it, being over-ambitious, get your words out, is a risk.
Yeah. And also, sorry, that goes to the refurb as well. So if you've got
Whoa. We'll come on to that.
Oh, so sorry. Am I jumping ahead? Oh, well, of course. Lead me on.
Like you know what I'm going to talk about. No, I'm not going to go there.
Oh,
I'm going to put something else in.
Oh, gosh.
Before we get to that.
Okay.
Structural unknowns is another one, right?
Yeah, gosh.
And again, we've talked about walk away. This could be one that might force you to walk away.
That's if you know about it. Because the whole
Yeah.
thing about it being a structural unknown is it might come up halfway through.
Yep. Yep. So I guess the short answer is make sure you get a structural survey before you've exchanged contracts so
Yeah.
you know what you're walking into.
Yes. And that is more important in some buildings than others. I'm not saying that you
Yes.
shouldn't get it, but your older buildings, you know, particularly your Victorian, your Edwardian, your Georgian, I mean, they sort of dug stuff just on the soil. So foundations and things like that can be very iffy, which means you can get a lot of movement. Sort of 60s, 70s plus, you're a bit safer on things like that. So you're
Agree.
right.
And commercial is a whole nother ballgame, right?
Yeah.
Because commercial buildings were built to be commercial.
Yeah.
You then try and convert to residential, then there's a whole another set of considerations.
Yeah.
If you're then going to stick another layer on, another floor on, obviously foundations and all
Yeah.
that type of thing. You know, services are big when it comes to commercial. You know, that you might have had one or two sets of kitchen areas or toilets or whatever. Now you want to put in 5 or 6
Yeah.
different bathrooms, or if it's apartment conversions, it might be 10, 12, 15.
Yeah.
You've got to accommodate for that.
And don't underestimate the cost of that. That is
Completely,
significant.
let alone working with the utilities companies
Yeah,
to
yeah.
make it happen.
Yeah.
But structurally, you know, concrete floors are seen to be really good in commercial buildings, and they are because they help with soundproofing and all that type of thing. However,
Underfloor heating is a nightmare. With
yeah,
it.
but to dig out channels for waste
Yeah.
is going to be that much more
Yes.
costly.
Yes.
So understanding the structure of the building that you're looking at is so important, and it will either make or break a deal.
Yeah.
Pardon the structural pun.
I like that a lot. I would say yes. You need to do all your due diligence early on. Thank you. For your structural issues, but also you must build in a contingency because you don't know what you might find halfway through.
Yeah.
And I would say there's always something that springs up, but sometimes they can be far worse than others.
Okay, so we've talked about being over-ambitious on number of units in a commercial to resi. We've talked about structural unknown. So on that point, what if there is a structural element in the building that is just too costly to move? From your perspective,
Are you going to be
how
specific?
can you work around
or
it? I don't know. There might be like massive structural
Posts you're
posts
talking
and
about.
stuff that
Okay.
could get in the way. How could you work with them rather than lose them?
I would love to know about this early on so that we could have created a layout.
Sorry, I'm telling you now.
No. I mean, in the project, I don't want to be thrown this like they've bought it, we're halfway through the build. But this is why if you do all your work early on, you know this, and we've created the layouts before you've, you know, gone actually bought the thing, then at least we can see if it's workable, because sometimes it isn't. Sometimes you're like, no matter what we do, this is actually going to be a real compromise, and what a shame. And actually you might just choose not to buy it.
Or you reduce your number of units, which puts pressure on the whole
I think
deal
it depends
and
on what the
everything
building
else.
is and
Yeah.
what you're splitting it to, 100%. But you need to know about that, because also it might be that gives you some leverage to offer lower. So
Yeah.
we've certainly had that before. We found a load of structural issues, and it was actually great because we could offer far lower than we were going to, and I got it for a steal. But it's knowledge is power, isn't it?
Yeah. And structurally, like a lot of people get really nervous when it comes to structural report.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that might be driven by fear, because you
it is.
kind of don't want to know if it's bad. But actually, if you ignore that and then you get further down the road to then find it,
Yeah.
it's going to be much more painful to deal with than the fear of the unknown.
Yes.
So I think a structural report is a must, particularly in the commercial world, because like age of building, asbestos, all of that stuff kicks in.
Yeah.
And then how to work around it, because you're physically changing the use from commercial to residential,
Yeah.
means that there's a whole nother level of challenges and potentially risk
Yes.
if you don't know
Yes.
what that structural bit is.
Yeah.
Have we hammered that home enough?
I think so. I think also I would just tag on to that's about having a great network as well. So you've got the
Yeah.
right professionals to turn to. So
Where
that
would you go for that?
There is some sort of networking event that occasionally I go to. It's called the Property Edge. You know, if you fancy it, it's in Farnborough. There we go. Plug for you.
What a plug. Real ambition there.
That's very good. It is full of the sorts of professionals that could really help you out in this situation.
Better.
But in all seriousness, if something like that comes up on a report and you've got the right network, you can turn to people and go, what does this mean?
Yeah.
How can I solve it before it's too late?
Yeah, and I think just on a timing point of view, if you've done your rough numbers at the start and you're close to getting an offer in, maybe your offer's accepted, you then get your structural survey done and it brings up some stuff. Timing wise, that's probably the latest you want to leave it.
Yes.
Because it gives you the opportunity to go back to your professionals, go back to your architect, go back to your interiors, go back to your construction guys, everyone, and say, right, okay, this is where we're at. This is a thing that we just can't move it.
Yeah.
How do we work around it? What's the impact on my design? What's the impact on my costs?
Yeah.
And is it still a deal?
Yeah.
You exchange. Traditionally, if you exchange, you're then committed to purchase. So, yeah, you want to kind of get that nailed beforehand.
Defo.
We were talking about scope earlier, for those that are still here listening. The whole planning optimization and the risk of that versus the scope. Keep going.
No, I don't know where you're going with this. I'm like, and?
What were we talking about? We're talking about scope. We're talking about the impact of the scope of that. Talking about whether or not we have larger one-bed units versus smaller.
Oh, now I'm clear. Yes, the scope of a project, 100%. And because I started to talk about actually how much construction work you might be planning and how much you might be planning on extending the size of the building, because often that is a solution, but it is a costly solution. And I think people underestimate just the cost of adding any square footage. As soon as you have to put a spade in the soil and you need some RSJs in place, it's costly. And therefore, you need to really look at your existing building and see whether your ROI warrants that. And that's the same as whether it's a commercial building or it's a resi home. It's expensive. Is the space already there? Can you utilize that? If not, and if you think, no, this is absolutely going to make this deal, then go for it. But make sure you understand the costs and you understand, the full spec of what you're doing.
Yeah. So I was my third thing is around over-ambitious scope, because it kind of links to the optimization risk as well of a building. Over-ambitious scope is dangerous. It's costly. But you don't want to be factoring that in too late. So if, for example, I'm thinking if your area demands a decent, reasonable scope and you've done it on a basic, then that's going to have a huge impact. But don't overspec either.
No.
Because that is a risk.
It's about doing your homework, isn't it? I mean, it's all about the whole postcode and demographic analysis and really understanding the ROI before you even go into, actually planning for this construction work.
And we talked about it in the last episode, didn't we, around the different sort of types of housing, different types of properties, different demographics, and how you might want to scope out a project when we talked about kitchen specifically.
Yes,
So I think that plays a big part as well.
Yeah, and how much you are opening up a building as well. People can get very carried away with, well, I want to knock all of these walls down and create this huge open plan space. One thing, it is expensive. You're definitely going to need to bring in RSJs and all of that jazz. Number two, does it warrant it? Because actually, if you understand what the current market is doing, I've spoken before about, I don't want to sound too harsh, but the open plan space it's not dead, but it's dying. It's still there, but actually people are very keen on usable space. They don't just want this big open expanse of space where it's not zoned and it hasn't got an actual use and they can't see how they're going to work or live in it. So being really clear as to what the spaces are going to do and how you're using it, how you're circulating around, it might mean that actually you're not knocking every wall down to create this big open plan space.
Yeah. Yeah, open plan's on its way out then, is it?
It's not completely, but I think people do love some separation now. And I think that's, like I mentioned before, very much because of our lifestyles. We live at home, we work from home a lot, we work out at home a lot. All of these things come into play. And so actually, lockdown showed us that having these big open plan spaces where we're all together all of the time can be a bit much, just saying.
I reckon that's massive.
Yeah.
That's a massive contributor to it.
100%.
Because if you think about the amount of time you're in your house, if you're out working 5 days a week,
Yeah.
which, let's be honest, most people are, right?
Well, they were, but they're not now.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they were. And so, let's have this open space where I can chill out with my kids whilst
Yeah.
I'm cooking, and I can watch TV over here whilst
Yeah.
they're playing and this and that and the other. All of a sudden we're at home more and we're going, man, I need my own space.
Yeah.
Like, let's just section it off again. And so it's no surprise, like you said, people work from home, people working out at home
Yeah.
more. All of a sudden the needs are shifting a little bit.
Yeah.
Where actually I want separate spaces rather than a big open plan. So it kind of
Definitely.
makes sense.
It does make sense. And I think not just family life, I think if you were working professionals, you're suddenly all together. You are actually, again, you probably want a kitchen and a separate living space so that
Yeah.
you can separate a bit more out.
Yeah, but if there's 2 or 3 of you working
Yeah.
from home in the house, one's in the kitchen,
Yeah.
not ideal, one's in a bedroom, not ideal, and one's in the office.
Yeah.
If you've got a massive open plan,
Yes.
you
What a
can't
nightmare.
have 2 people working in that huge space,
No.
which probably takes up a reasonable square footage of your overall house.
Yeah.
So unless you're in your box room,
Yeah. Please don't be in the box room. That
Which
makes
you
me
love.
so sad.
what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, the overspecking is really, really important. But don't see this as a sign to just like put everything cheap as chips in and just go, yeah, I'm not going to spend on that. And then I'll get this massive ROI. That also doesn't work.
Yeah.
You have got to sell it. You have got to rent it. So it does need to stand out. Just spend wisely.
Know your market,
Yeah.
know your end users, and really, really focus on what their needs and requirements are, and work to that, right? I think
Definitely.
really important.
Yeah. Have you got any more you're throwing at me? So this week we have got a question regarding an extension and a loft extension. So it really ties into this.
So this is our hot seat.
This is our
It's
hot
our
seat.
new feature within our series of podcasts.
It's super exciting.
So-
We answer questions that get written into us. Written into us, is that right? Don't think that makes
It's
sense.
fine now.
It's
come on.
fine.
You're there.
You know what we
You've
mean.
started.
And they are obviously property related. Please don't ask us to solve any of your day-to-day
Life issues.
life issues. So this one, okay. So we're considering converting the loft and doing a full width extension. Total spend would be around 160,000, but we'd be the most expensive house on the street. Are we overreaching?
So
Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
that's it. Thank you for joining.
No.
165 grand,
Yes, the cost of
full
the
width loft. And it'll be the best house on the street.
well, most expensive house on the street. We don't know who's going to be the best.
Okay. And the question was, are we
overreaching? First of all, let's just be clear. Is this actually an investment or is it your family home? Because that's a massive difference.
Yeah,
Because if it's your family home, you're going to be there forever and you really think this is going to improve your lifestyle and you're going to love it and you can afford it, go for it. Because eventually you'll be fine.
I think, just adding to that, I can, if it is their own house, then you kind of understand why the question's being asked because of the cost of moving. It's a big factor, right? I'm sure you've seen it loads as well, where people are like, do you know what? I'd like a bit more space. I'd like a nicer place. But by the time I've sold mine, cost for that, stamp duty on the next one,
Yeah.
do I just spend a bit of that money or most of that money? I'm happy with the location.
Yeah.
Let's just increase the footprint.
100%.
So it kind of makes sense.
It does make sense on a family home because actually you see that so much. Definitely we've had clients who assumed they were going to find something, but the jump up is significant. And like you say, all the buying and selling fees are a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So get it for that. Now, what do we think if it's a flip? I think this is a bit
I mean, it's got to be an amazing area.
Yeah, I think in today's market, I would be really worried about being the most expensive house on the street.
Yeah. I'd argue if you, yeah. My hesitation is,
yeah.
could you go out and up, and does that deliver what you need, rather than rather than have a second floor for less space?
I see what you mean. Well, I guess I'm assuming that they've done all of their scope and they understand that this is the best way of getting additional space into the house. But you're right, we don't know that. I would be worried about that, I would have to say.
How many bedrooms do you reckon? I mean, we're speculating
we're just making this up as we go along.
But 165 grand to me looks like at least 2 additional rooms up there. Potentially with 1 or 2 bathrooms.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, and it depends where it is again, though, because 160,000 is going to get you a lot more up north than it is going to get you in sunny Surrey.
Yeah.
I mean, sunny Surrey, 160,000, I'm like, yeah, it's probably just one loft.
Box room?
It's probably box room. It's probably just one additional box room. No, it's probably, I would think that is your side extension, maybe pushing out a bit into the garden, and a loft suite. That's what I see it at 160,000 in this area.
But if it's just loft full width, that's a couple of bedrooms, right?
Yes. I would say that's a couple of bedrooms. But I still would be very hesitant about ending up being the most expensive house on the street, unless you are going to be significantly bigger than the other houses on the street.
Or living there for the next 50 years.
Yeah, if you're keeping it, that's cool. But it as a flip, it's worrying. As a keep still, if you're going to be renting it out, I still think that's slightly ambitious.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's a go-to investment opportunity.
No.
In summary,
just
because it feels quite risky.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends if it's a 2-bed mid-terrace house, full width of that's going to get you 1 bedroom for 160, and then that's expensive. But if it's a 4, in my mind, I assumed it was a 4-bed house with a reasonable footprint already to then go up again.
That's what I
give you a couple of bedrooms.
Yeah.
And with it being the most expensive house on the street, it's unique. If it's the only house with that number of rooms.
And if we were in a safe market, I'd say that's fine. But in the current market, I think it's a massive risk.
Yeah, unless you've got a multi-generational family who are hot on that street, that particular
There's a lot of what ifs.
And they're desperate for it, then of course, turn it around, get it sold. But it's all about exit, right? Due diligence. Have your exit in mind. If you've got a buyer who is like itching to get into that property, of course you're going to go in and do it and sell it because you've got an exit.
Yeah.
But secure that exit before you've started.
I agree.
And that's where the legals and the games commence, right?
Yeah.
But if there's an exit for it, and it may be that you want to give it as HMO to a social housing provider, and adding those 2 rooms are going to make it much more worthwhile.
That's true.
Supported living, social housing, council, whatever it may be. Actually, it doesn't really matter then whether it's the most expensive house on the street or not. So there is that investment angle to it, but it's on the strength of the exit. So if you've got a strong exit that is proven, and that is ideally secured, then it's a no-brainer. If it's your own house, question mark. If it's a flip, but like a massive question mark.
Yes.
Verging towards a no, do not do. I think we've explored all the potential
100%.
scenarios there.
Job done.
But hopefully that's added some value because
Yes.
it's given you a breadth of information. So as we've discussed, the truth is most developers don't lose money because they chose the wrong strategy. They lose money because the project became more complicated than they expected.
Knowing when a deal is too complex can often be just as important as knowing when it's a good opportunity. If you've got a question you'd like to be featured in our hot seat, please get in touch by leaving a comment below or contacting us on Instagram or LinkedIn.
Thank you for listening to Milesh and Sadie Property Talks. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you follow the show and share it with another investor or developer who would find it useful. And we'll see you on the next episode.